Okay, good morning. Today's topic is not included in the coverage of the first exam, but the topic to be discussed today is useful for you to review your understanding of the concepts of time value of money, because interest rates and bond valuation, this topic is based upon the foundation of financial computation. Discounting and compounding is everywhere. So if you feel uncomfortable about discounting and compounding, you might try to become comfortable about it. There is no other way. Another thing is the topic of interest rates and bond valuation. It is so fundamental in finance, not just corporate finance, but in finance as a whole. Interest rate affects almost everyone, not just almost, everyone, period. When I was a monetary policy committee member of the Bank of Korea, I used to be making interest rate decisions every month with 6 other committee members, including the governor and deputy governor of the Bank of Korea. When we were deliberating the case, whether or not to make changes in interest rate, we always thought about how this will influence the lives of all the people in this country. It's not just the businesses that are affected by interest rate decisions. It's not just the investors that are affected by it. Everybody is affected by interest rate decisions. At one point, a student of mine, former student of mine, came to me and he thanked me for voting for interest rate cut decision during the global financial crisis period. He bought a house and he was paying mortgage interest. And by cutting the rate, he is relieved of some amount of mortgage payment. So he thanked me. And there I realized that, well, indeed, the rate decision affects everyone in the economy. So this rate decision is so critical and so fundamental. So I want you to become familiar with it, become fluent about it, become fully aware of the details of interest rates and bond valuation. This is foundation of finance, and this is also foundation of everyday life. So if you do not have good understanding of this issue, the rest of the semester will be very painful. Not only rest of the semester is going to be painful, but also your college days will be painful, and after college, your professional life will be very painful. So I'm giving you warning today. I want you to become comfortable about it. Okay? Try to work hard to understand the basic concepts. I'm going to go very slowly, and if you find yourself behind, just don't hesitate to ask me questions. Okay? Whatever questions you ask, that's fine. I will answer those questions, and I will go very, very slowly so that every one of you can understand this. Okay. Bond is nothing but a piece of paper. This piece of paper has several things on it. The first thing is face value. Face value of this bond. This bond is nothing but a promise for a borrower to the lender. borrower is going to pay the face value at maturity. And maturity, time till maturity is called T. T is future point in time, and time 0 is today, now. And this piece of paper is given from the borrower to the lender, or issuer to the buyer. Okay? So here's an issuer to a buyer, and issuer gives this piece of paper called bond, and buyer is going to give dollars, ones, and euros, and so on. Okay? This is a bond contract. So it has face value. And at maturity, this face value will be paid from the issuer to the buyer. And over time, every period, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 1 year, or sometimes every 3 months, interests are paid. And those interests are called coupons. In the old days, it's not the case anymore, but in the old days, a bond has perforated line, and below it, there are many coupons attached. So when this interest payment date comes, you tear off this coupon and bring it to a bank that is designated by the issuer, then this bank will pay you the interest. And that interest is called, that piece of paper is called coupon. That's why it's called coupon. Coupons. And coupon interest rate is sometimes denoted by I, interest rate I. This is different from R. Okay? And here is a bond price. Because this is a piece of paper that is issued by the issuer to a buyer, and this buyer can bring this piece of paper to the market and sometimes sell and buy. So there should be a price for this piece of paper. And bond price is PB, and it pays coupon interest until maturity, and at maturity, coupon plus face value will be returned. So future cash flows are discounted to yield the price. So price of the bond is, using mathematical notations, T starting from 1 till maturity T, and coupon payment divided by 1 plus R to the Tth power plus F face value, 1 plus R to the big T. And this is rewritten as using the present value annuity formula, C times 1 over R minus 1 over R, 1 plus R to the Tth power, plus F divided by 1 plus R to the Tth power. And here, R is called the yield to maturity. YTM. So I gave you 5 variables: face value, maturity, and coupon interest rate, and bond price, and yield to maturity. And yield to maturity is the discount rate that discounts the future cash flows to yield the price of the bond. Okay? So there are 5 variables. Going backwards, yield to maturity, price, coupon interest rate, maturity, and face value. These 5 variables, they are interrelated. And if you know 4 of them, the remaining 5th one is automatically determined. If you know C and maturity T and face value F and the price, then you will automatically be able to compute R, which is yield to maturity. Or if you know yield to maturity and C, T, and F, then you will be able to compute the price. This is a simple mathematical equation that tells you how each and every one of the 5 variables interact. So this is what we are going to learn from 7.1, bonds and bond valuation, and more about bond features, then bond ratings, and some different types of bonds. Today we are going to do the first section, 7.1.1. And I'm going to spend lots of time on discussing this because this is so fundamental, and I don't want to lose any one of you. So bond definitions, we already talked about it. This is a bond. Okay? A bond is a fixed income security. A holder of this bond, this buyer of the bond, will get fixed income over time. Fixed income over time. Future cash flows are already fixed. There is no change in C's and F. There is no change in T. Once issued, that will be there for T periods. Face value is there. So bond is a fixed income security. Par value or face value. Face value is at times called a par value. Coupon rate or coupon interest rate. Coupon payment, C. C times I times par value will give you C. Maturity date and yield to maturity. Yield to maturity. And more on yield to maturity soon. Since bond is nothing but a set of future cash flows from cash flow point of view, a bond has set of future cash flows, C's and F. And using a proper discount rate, you can find the present value of this cash flow, right? So bond value is nothing but, present value of a bond is nothing but present value of all the coupons plus present value of the par value, face value. And as you see it, coupons are the same throughout the period. Therefore, it's an annuity. So present value of an annuity plus present value of the lump sum, face value. As you can see from this formula, interest rate, this discount rate called yield to maturity, if yield to maturity goes up, what happens to the price of the bond? Go up or down? If R goes up, what happens to PV? So there is inverse relation between the two. If discount rate or yield to maturity rises, price of the bond will have to fall. If the price of the bond goes up, what happens to the yield to maturity? Right. So interest rate increase, bond prices decrease, and vice versa. here, this statement is a little, it could confuse you. The yield to maturity, YTM, don't ask me why, but it will become clearer soon. Yield to maturity is oftentimes used as a synonym, or take that back, market interest rates can be a different name for yield to maturity. So yield to maturity is a synonym of market interest rates. And here, if market interest rates increase, if market interest rates rise, then the price will have to fall. And if the price goes up, market interest will fall. Okay? There is inverse relation. If you hear, listen to the radio or television news, reporter comes out and say, today there's a big increase in the market interest rates. When you hear the news, you know that bond prices are falling. Right? Bond prices and market interest rates, they are going in opposite directions. So market interest rates are different from coupon interest rates. Coupon interest rates are already fixed, and it is constant based upon the contract, bond contract. Okay? Market interest rates, however, are variable. They are changing over time. And we'll talk about this in a moment. Valuing a bond with annual coupons. Now let's think about this case. Okay? Consider a bond with a coupon rate of 10%. Coupon rate of 10%. So let's do it. Face value is 1,000. Maturity is how many years? 5 years. T equals 5. And coupon interest rate is 10%. Therefore, coupon is $100 per month, per year. What is, and yield to maturity? Maturity is 11%. Then what is the price of this bond? I know the answer is here, but what I would like you to do now is take 1 minute to compute this. You have to make your hands learn how to do it. Okay? So, price of this bond, P sub B, price of this bond is coupon payment of 100 to be paid over 5 years. 1 over 0.11, 1.11 to the 5th power plus 1,000 divided by 1.11 to the 5th power. Right? Just don't copy it down. Just you have to know it, how to do it. And as you see it there, 963.04. Now, it's time to look at the formula very, very closely and see if you can get some feel for the bond pricing. This investor is investing in this bond, 5-year bond, for 5 years. right? And he or she is going to pay to buy one bond at 963.04. Let's say $964, $963. Okay, that's the price you pay. You pay 963, and next year comes, you get 100. The following year, you get also 100 for the next 5 years. And in year 5, you get 1,000, your principal back, right? That's the cash flow pattern. You invest 963 and get $100 coupon each of the next 5 years, and 1,000 face value at the end. Do you get it? What is, I want you to think, what is the annual return on investment, annual return on investment in this bond? You invest 963 and hold it for 5 years. And during the 5 years, you receive coupon payments, and at the end, you get the maturity payment. What is the annual rate of return on investment? Is it 10%? Let me ask you, is it 10%? No, it's not 10%. Is it going to be more? 정동화, is it going to be more or less? Okay, so annual return on investment will be less than 10%. That's what you think. Okay, anyone else? I want you to think in this term. Oh, I don't have a timeline. $963 are invested. This is your investment. And each of the next 5 years, you receive 100, 100, 100, 100, and 1,100. So you pay $963 to get these cash flows. And this investment is made over 5 years. And for 5 years, there should be annual average rate return on investment. And that is not 10%. The reason why it is not 10% is, for that to be 10%, this has to be 1,000. Okay? You invest 1,000 and get 10% return, 10%, 10%, 10%, and 10%. But that's not 10%. You are paying actually 963. So annual return on investment will be probably a little more than 10%. You pay less than 1,000 to get the cash flows that you would get for 10% coupon interest rate. It's not obvious yet, but it is 11%. And 11% is yield to maturity. Yield to maturity, that's not the real definition of yield to maturity, but yield to maturity is, roughly speaking, is the annual average rate of return on investment in this bond if you invest at today's price and hold it until maturity. Okay? I repeat this again. Yield to maturity is the annual average rate of return on investment if you invest in the bond at today's price and hold it until maturity. I repeat again, it might be good for you to write it down. Yield to maturity can be considered as the annual average return on investment in the bond at today's price, hold it until maturity. Do you get it? It's an annual average rate of return on investment in the bond if you invest at today's price and you hold it until maturity. So if you hold it for 5 years, and after 5 years are over, you look back and you say that, oh, return on investment is 11%. That's average return on investment every year is 11%. So this yield to maturity can be conveniently interpreted as the annual average return on investment in the bond. Okay? If you don't understand it, just take it. Take it as given, okay? Now, this kind of bond is selling at a price that is smaller than the face value. Face value is 1,000, and it is selling at a price that is lower than the face value. You remember in the previous classes, when you deposit some amount of money in a bank account, you get fixed interest over time. And at the end, you get your deposited principal, right? So you're so used to this principal investment and interest payments, and at the end, you get principal back. Bond payment is very similar to that, but you are not getting the principal back. You are getting, in this example, more than the principal. Your original principal was 963, and you get 1,000. Therefore, it is more than 10%. The annual rate of return on investment is more than 10%. And if the price is lower than the face value, it's this kind of bond. Price of the bond less than face value is always the case when YTM is greater than interest payment, coupon interest, and this kind of bond is called to be selling at discount. And that's why it's called valuing a discount bond. Its price is lower than the face value or par value. And it will become obvious in the next example. Value of a bond is greater than face value if YTM is less than coupon interest rate. And this kind of bond is selling at premium. And sometimes present bond price is equal to the face value, like the case in the bank deposit. YTM is equal to coupon interest rate. And we call that the bond is selling at par. Okay? Now let's move on to look at. I'm coming back to this example very shortly. Look at another example. Suppose you are reviewing a bond that has a 10% annual coupon and a face value of 1,000. Okay? Very similar to this example, but this bond has maturity of 20 years. And the yield to maturity is 8%. What is the price of the bond? Okay. On the screen, you see that present value of the bond or price of the bond is equal to 100. That's the 100. That's the coupon interest payment times present value of an annuity at 8%. For 20 years, plus face value, discounted at 8% YTM, for 20 years, and you get the value or price being 1196.36. And that's clearly larger than the face value. And this bond is selling at premium. And notice that yield to maturity is smaller than the coupon interest rate. So there is correspondence between, one-to-one correspondence between present value or price and yield to maturity. And present the price versus face value is linked to YTM versus coupon interest rate. If YTM is larger than coupon interest rate, then price must be smaller than the face value. If YTM is less than coupon interest rate, then price must be higher than the face value. If YTM happens to be the same as the coupon interest rate, then price of the bond will have to be the same as the face value. Or bond should be selling at par. Are you with me so far? This is just mechanical. Okay, this tells you the story. YTM equals coupon rate, then par value equals bond price. If YTM is greater than coupon rate, then par value must be larger than bond price. Therefore, this is selling at discount, or this is called a discount bond. If YTM is less than coupon rate, then par value is smaller than bond price, and this kind of bond is called premium bond, or bond is selling at premium. So this is the bond price pricing equation, and you see on the screen, the bond pricing equation is this. You've seen that before. That's present value annuity calculation. Any questions up to this point? I said that yield to maturity can be conveniently interpreted as the annual average rate of return on investment in the bond if you invest in the bond at the price, current price, and hold it until maturity. But in case you do not hold it until maturity, your rate of return on investment may be different. And that's what I'm going to show to you now. Now, let's suppose at t equals 0, in other words, today you buy the bond paying $963. And as I said, your expectation is if you hold it until maturity, you will be able to earn 11% rate of return on investment. Okay, that's the definition of, or that's the interpretation of yield to maturity. Now, but let's change. Let's assume that this investor changes your mind. You change your mind, and 2 years later, 2 years have passed, and you decide to sell the bond. And yield to maturity at the time, YTM at the time, may not be 11%. It may be 8%. Let's suppose that it is only 8%. So interest rates have fallen. What would happen to the price of this bond? if YTM has fallen from 11% to 8%, what will happen to the price? Okay, let's find out. Okay, let's find out. Let's find the price. At time 2, price of the bond is computing the price of the bond. Bond price at t equals 2 is equal to, you are going to receive 100 for 3 more payments, right? 100 times 1 over 0.08 minus 1 over 0.08, 1.08, how many years? 5 years or 3 years or 2 years? 2 or 3? Well, at time 2, you have how many periods to go? Right. It used to be a 5-year bond, but it is now a 3-year bond. Time have passed. So you get 100, 100, and 1100. This is the cash flow of the bond that is available at time 2. So, to the 3 plus 1000 divided by 1.08 to the 3rd power. I want you to compute this for me. I didn't do it, so you have to compute that for me. What's the price? It's just mechanical. First of all, will that be larger than the face value or smaller than the face value? Right. Why? Looking at this, yield to maturity is smaller than the coupon interest rate. Therefore, it should be selling at premium. Okay, it should be larger than 1,000. So if your answer is less than 1,000, then you've done wrong. So, 정광이, how much is it? 1,051.54. Okay. Is this the number you got? Okay, 1,051.54. Wow, that's interesting. 51.54. You remember, price of the bond at t equals 0 was 963. So you invest 963 at time 0. 0, 1, 2, and 963. You receive 100, and you receive 100, and then you sell it at 1,051.54. So what's the return on investment? I mean, annual. Annual return on investment in this bond. Let's find out, okay? 963 let's see how what would be the best way. 963, 1 plus, let's call it big R. This is invested for 2 years. 2 plus 100 is invested for 1 year. And that will be equal to 106, 1051.54 plus 100. So find R. How much is R? How about I ask Yu Hyungmin? Did you compute that? No? Then anyone who would like to help Yu Hyungmin? What's R? You compute this. This is simple. It's a quadratic equation. Solve for R. 고홍근. (963) 1 plus R squared plus 100 times 1 plus R is equal to 1151.54. It's a little cumbersome to compute it, but shouldn't be too difficult. What's R? Multiple choice. R is greater than 11%. R is same as 11%. R is less than 11%. A, B, and C. Okay? How many if you think that return on investment is larger than 11%, raise your hand. There is no choice of none of the above. The answer is one of the three. How many of you think that it is 11%? How many of you think that it is less than 11%? Come on. Okay, this is your homework. I might write this on your test. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I want you to think about it. The answer is this. The answer is this. In other words, actual return, what I'm saying is, actual return may be different from yield to maturity. Yield to maturity is fixed only if you invest in the bond from time zero till maturity. That's why it's called yield to maturity. If you hold it until maturity, you get yield to maturity as a promised payment, promised rate of return on investment. But if you sell it in the middle, it depends upon the ongoing interest rate at the time, depending upon the yield to maturity then rather than yield to maturity at the beginning. Okay. Let's look at this example. Okay. Here is a formula for a bond valuation, and forget about what's written on top. I want you to look at the formula, and I want you to answer to me right away. Okay, what is the face value of this bond? Face value of this bond. Okay, it is 1,000. What is the maturity, time till maturity of this bond? 14 years. What is the coupon interest rate? Coupon interest rate. Make up your mind. Coupon interest rate? 7%. What is the yield to maturity? 8%. Okay. Now let's move on to consider two bonds. Okay, this is the last topic for today. Okay, but very important topic for today. Okay, here are two bonds. Come on. Here are two bonds. One bond has 1 year to go, and the other bond has 30 years to go. Okay, one is a long-term bond and the other one is short-term bond. But both of the bonds have the same coupon interest. Coupon interest rate is 10%. Okay? I know the answers are all here, but I would like you to spend the next 3 minutes to do the following computation. I want you to verify that the numbers over here are correct. Okay. Here is the face value. Face value is 1,000, and coupon payment is 100. So coupon interest rate is 10%. And here are two bonds. 1 year bond. Let's start with 30-year bond. 30-year bond. And 1 year. I'm sorry. 1 year bond. 30-year bond. And for the sake of practice, the perpetual bond. Bond that pays 10% interest rate forever. Okay. Now, if YTM is equal to 5%, if YTM is equal to 10%, YTM equals 15%. The three possible cases of YTM, I want you to compute the price of this bond. I want you to compute the price of this bond. Take now 2 minutes. Shouldn't be terribly difficult. This kind of computation is needed for your exam on Wednesday, so try it. Make your fingers work. Okay, if yield to maturity is 5%, what is the price of 1-year bond? It is 1.047. For 30-year bond, it is 1,768. It's a perpetual bond. What is the price of the bond? Perpetual bond valuation is coupon payment of 100 divided by interest rate. Or it's 2,000. If yield to maturity is 10%, the discount rate is 10%. What is the price of the 1-year bond? Come on. Huh? Okay, it's 1,000. It's 1,000. It's 1,000. You don't even have to calculate it. Coupon interest rate and yield to maturity are the same. Therefore, the bond should be selling at par, regardless of the time till maturity. If yield to maturity is 15%, then bonds should be selling at discount. And the price of this is, for 1-year bond, it's 956.52. 956.52. And for 30-year bond, 671.70. And 666. These relations are drawn on this graph, figure 7.2. Look at this. It is interesting. If at the moment interest rate 10%, the basic yield maturity is 10%. But this interest rate can change over time. If interest rate suddenly goes up to 15%, 1-year bond will be worth a little less than what it used to be. It will be 956, about $44 lower than the original bond. On the other hand, if interest rate falls to 5%, then the price will go up by about 37%. But the difference, the degree of variation, the degree of change is huge. So for long-term bond, on the other hand, look at this. If interest rate falls, there will be gain in value of over $750. If interest rate rises by 5%, there is loss in value of about $320. So the longer the time till maturity, the higher the volatility of the price. Price volatility is larger for a bond with longer maturity. This is very important. The longer the maturity, the larger the volatility of price because of the change in interest rate. If interest rate change, longer term bonds will have greater volatility. Short term bonds
relatively. Therefore, longer-term bonds are considered riskier than short-term bonds. If you invest in long-term bonds, you are taking on this risk of price fluctuation. For short-term bonds, you don't have that much fluctuation in the bond price, but for long-term bonds, there's big, huge fluctuation. That's called price risk of the bond. Price risk. Price risk is proportional to, it's positively related to the time. Okay, that's about all that I would like to do for today. On Wednesday, you have your test, and a week from today, we'll continue this discussion. We'll talk about time to maturity and yield to maturity. How the yield to maturity is related to time to maturity. That's a very significant theory in bond valuation and interest rates. Okay, that's all for today, and I'll see you this evening for review session, and good luck with your test.